The rain hammered against the windows of our Chicago apartment, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. For weeks, maybe months, I'd been living with a gnawing unease, a sense that something was profoundly wrong. My wife, Bronte, a vibrant and successful marketing executive, had become distant, preoccupied. Late nights at the office were increasingly common, her explanations vague and unsatisfying. I tried to brush it off, attributing it to the pressures of her demanding career, but the knot in my stomach tightened with each passing day. I'm Alaric, 44 years old, and I work as a software engineer. Bronte and I had been married for 15 years, a seemingly solid partnership built on mutual respect, shared dreams, and a deep, abiding love. We'd weathered storms together, supported each other through career changes and family crises, and always emerged stronger on the other side. Or so I thought. The first real crack in our faud appeared subtly. Bronte started taking meticulous care of her appearance, something she'd always done, but now it felt different. New clothes, expensive perfumes, and a newfound obsession with fitness filled her days. She'd always been attractive, but now she seemed determined to project an image of irresistible allure. I tried to compliment her to show my appreciation, but my words seemed to bounce off a wall of indifference. Then came the phone calls. Whispered conversations in the hallway, hushed tones that ceased abruptly when I entered the room. I'd ask who she was talking to, and she'd offer some flimsy excuse: a colleague, a client, a friend. But her eyes would dart away, and her voice would waver, betraying her deception. One evening, I decided to surprise Bronte at work with dinner. I knew she was working late on a major campaign, and I thought a little gesture of support might lift her spirits. I arrived at her office building, a sleek skyscraper in the heart of downtown, and signed in at the reception desk. The security guard, a friendly woman named Beverly, greeted me with a knowing smile. "She's still up there with Mr. Kendrick," she said, nodding towards the elevators. "They've been at it for hours, Mr. Kendrick, Bronte's boss, a man I'd met only a handful of times but who had always struck me as slick and overly attentive to my wife." A wave of nausea washed over me as I rode the elevator to Bronte's floor. The office was dimly lit, the only sound the hum of the air conditioning. I walked towards Bronte's office, my heart pounding in my chest. The door was slightly ajar and I could hear voices inside. Bronte's voice and a man's voice, Mr. Kendrick's voice. I pushed the door open, and the scene that unfolded before me shattered my world. Bronte and Mr. Kendrick were locked in a passionate embrace, their bodies pressed together, their faces flushed with desire. They sprang apart as I entered, their eyes wide with panic and guilt. Time seemed to slow to a crawl. The blood drained from my face, leaving me cold and numb. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The air in the room felt thick and suffocating. Bronte stared at me, her expression a mixture of fear and defiance. Mr. Kendrick, ever the opportunist, stepped forward, his face a mask of false concern. "Alaric, this isn't what it looks like," he stammered. "Isn't what it looks like." I finally managed to choke out, my voice barely a whisper. "I think it's exactly what it looks like." My wife in the arms of her boss in her office after hours. Bronte began to cry, tears streaming down her face. "Alaric, please let me explain," she pleaded. "It just happened. It was a mistake." "A mistake?" I repeated, my voice rising in anger. "A mistake that you've been making for God knows how long. The late nights, the secret phone calls, the new clothes, it all makes sense now. You've been lying to me, betraying me, and making a fool of me for months." I turned to Mr. Kendrick, my fists clenched at my sides. "And you," I said, my voice dripping with contempt. "You're a disgrace. A married man preying on your employee. You're a lower than scum." I stormed out of the office, leaving Bronte and Mr. Kendrick to wallow in their guilt. I stumbled out of the building, into the rain-soaked streets of Chicago, feeling as if my heart had been ripped from my chest. Over the next few days, the full extent of Bronte's betrayal became clear. I discovered a secret email account she'd been using to communicate with Mr. Kendrick, filled with explicit messages and plans for romantic getaways. I learned that they'd been having an affair for over 6 months, meeting in hotels and restaurants, flaunting their relationship behind my back. The pain was unbearable. The woman Id loved and trusted, the woman Id shared my life with, had systematically deceived and humiliated me. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't function. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of despair. I confronted Bronte, demanding answers. She confessed everything, admitting to her affair with Mr. Kendrick, her lies and her deceit. She claimed she was unhappy in our marriage, that I was too boring, too predictable. She said she needed excitement, adventure, and that Mr. Kendrick had provided that for her. Her words were like a knife twisting in my gut. I couldn't believe that the woman I'd known for so long could be so cruel, so callous. I realized that I'd been living a lie, that the marriage I thought was strong and loving was nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion. I made the decision to end our marriage. There was no going back, no forgiveness possible. The trust was gone, the love was dead, and the only thing left was a bitter residue of resentment and pain. The divorce was messy and acrimonious. Bronte fought me every step of the way, demanding a large settlement and custody of our dog, Coco, a goofy golden retriever we both adored. I refused to give in, determined to protect myself from further exploitation. As the divorce proceedings dragged on, I began to seek solace in my work and in the company of my friends. I confided in my colleague, Anselm, a sharp-witted and fiercely loyal friend who had always been skeptical of Bronte. Anselm listened patiently to my story, offering words of comfort and support. "You're better off without her, Alaric," he said. "She's a toxic person and you deserve someone who truly appreciates you." Anselm's words resonated with me. I knew he was right. I'd spent too long trying to please Bronte, neglecting my own needs and desires. It was time to focus on myself, to rebuild my life, and to find happiness again. One evening, Anselm suggested we go out for drinks with some of his friends. I was hesitant at first, still reeling from the emotional trauma of my divorce, but Anselm insisted. "You need to get out there, Alaric," he said. "You can't hide away forever." I reluctantly agreed, and we met up with Anselm's friends at a trendy bar in River North. Among them was a woman named Isolde, a vibrant and intelligent architect with a warm smile and a quick wit. Isolde and I hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared love of art, music, and travel. Over the next few weeks, Isolde and I spent more and more time together. We went to museums, concerts, and restaurants. We talked for hours about everything and nothing, sharing our hopes, our dreams, and our fears. I found myself drawn to her warmth, her intelligence, and her genuine compassion. Isolde helped me to heal from the wounds of my past, to forgive Bronte, and to move on with my life. She showed me that it was possible to love again, to trust again, and to find happiness again. Meanwhile, Bronte's life began to unravel. Her affair with Mr. Kendrick had become public knowledge, damaging her reputation and costing her her job. Mr. Kendrick's wife had filed for divorce, and he was now facing a lawsuit from his company for violating their code of conduct. Bronte found herself alone, ostracized by her friends and colleagues, and struggling to make ends meet. One day, I received a phone call from Bronte. Her voice was weak and desperate. She begged me to take her back, to forgive her, and to give her another chance. She claimed she'd made a mistake, that she regretted her affair, and that she realized I was the only man she'd ever truly loved. I listened to her plea, my heart filled with a mixture of pity and contempt. But I knew that I could never forgive her, that I could never trust her again. The damage she'd done was irreparable, and the only way for me to move forward was to leave her in the past. "Sorry, Bronte," I said, my voice cold and firm. "But it's over. I can't take you back. You made your choice and now you have to live with the consequences." I hung up the phone, feeling a sense of closure and relief. I knew that I'd made the right decision. I'd survived Bronte's betrayal and I'd emerged stronger and wiser on the other side. I continued to see Isolde, and our relationship deepened and grew stronger with each passing day. She was everything Bronte wasn't: honest, loyal, and genuinely loving. I knew that I'd found my soulmate, the woman I was meant to spend the rest of my life with. One sunny afternoon, as we strolled through Lincoln Park, I stopped and turned to Isolde, taking her hands in mine. "Isolde," I said, my voice filled with emotion, "I love you more than words can say. Will you marry me?" Isolde's eyes filled with tears, and she threw her arms around me. "Yes, Alaric," she whispered. Yes, 1,000 times yes. We were married in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and family. Anselm served as my best man, and he gave a heartfelt toast, praising Isolde for her kindness and her unwavering support of me. As I looked at Isolde, standing beside me at the altar, radiant and beautiful, I knew that I'd found my happy ending. Bronte's betrayal had been a painful chapter in my life, but it had ultimately led me to Isolde, the woman who had shown me what true love really meant. Several years later, I received a letter from Bronte. She was living in a small town in Wisconsin, working as a waitress and struggling to make ends meet. She wrote that she was lonely and unhappy, and that she regretted her affair with Mr. Kendrick. She apologized for the pain she had caused me, and she wished me well. I read her letter with a sense of detachment. I no longer felt any anger or resentment towards her. I'd forgiven her, not for her sake, but for my own. I'd moved on with my life, and I was finally at peace. I crumpled up the letter and tossed it into the fireplace, watching as the flames consumed it. It was a symbolic act, a final farewell to the past and a celebration of the present. I turned to Isolde, who was sitting beside me on the couch, and wrapped my arms around her. "I love you," I whispered in her ear. "I love you too, Alaric," she replied, snuggling closer to me. "Forever and always." And as I held her in my arms, I knew that I was truly home. Bronte's betrayal had been a devastating blow, but it had ultimately led me to a place of greater happiness and fulfillment than I could have ever imagined.